She pretended to be poor for love, but the rejected cowboy revealed an unexpected truth. Amazing! Emily Carter stood in front of her ornate closet, the weight of her privileged life crashing down on her like a wave. Surrounded by designer dresses and pristine heels, she felt the shimmer of her world suffocating her spirit. Wealth, it seemed, was a gilded cage. In Cedar Creek, everyone knew her name and her father's legacy as a prominent real estate developer. But beneath the surface, Emily felt a void that even the finest silk couldn't fill. The laughter at exclusive galas rang hollow, a reminder that she was more than just her last name. In a desperate bid for authenticity, she hatched a plan: disguise her wealth and step into the shoes of a struggling waitress. The thought sent a thrill through her. What would it be like to connect with people without the shadow of her family's fortune? With each piece of clothing she chose from the thrift store, Emily transformed herself. The worn jeans hugged her legs, and the faded tank top gave her the sense of freedom she'd long sought. For the first time, her heart raced not out of panic, but a mixture of excitement and fear, the essence of a real adventure. She was no longer Emily Carter, the rich girl. She was just Emily, a girl seeking warmth in a community that felt alive. Cedar Creek was everything she had undersold it to be. The air was thick with the smell of barbecue. Laughter pulsed from the dive bars, and the golden sun dipped low over the rolling hills. As she served coffee and pie, she shared conversations with locals who didn't care about her lineage. Slowly, genuine connections began to bloom. Yet, an unrelenting tension tugged at her. What if they found out who she really was? Could a love built on deceit ever hold? In the thrumming heart of it all stood Jake, the rugged cowboy who worked tirelessly on his family's ranch. He admired Emily for her humility, but his heart had been hardened by betrayals from the wealthy. She felt drawn to him in a way that left her breathless, but the fear of revealing her true identity loomed like a storm cloud. Julia, her closest friend, had warned her to tread lightly, cautioning against the boundaries set by her deception. Yet here she was, clinging to the lie that felt safer than the jagged edge of vulnerability. As Emily's heart caught fire with possibility, a thought nagged her. Was love truly worth the gamble of losing everything? With each moment spent with Jake, she found solace, but as the emotional stakes intensified, so did her desperation. Her facade felt like a fragile house of cards, teetering on the edge of catastrophe. The fear of revealing her truth consumed her like a flickering flame. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The night of the local fundraiser, Emily's world shattered. Surrounded by laughter and chatter, her mother slipped up, a careless mention of their family's vacation home slicing through her disguise. The disillusionment in Jake's eyes, once full of warmth, turned into disbelief and betrayal as he turned away. The silence of Cedar Creek became deafening. Emily felt her heart sink. Her friendships, while she'd been herself, felt surreal against the backdrop of her revealed identity. She watched Jake ride away, his silhouette swallowed by the gathering shadows, taking with him the hope that had bloomed. Tension coiled in the air, thickening like heat waves shimmering on a summer day as she clutched the barn door, uncertainty gripping her like an unrelenting vice. Standing in the echo of unresolved emotions, her thoughts raced. Can love be built on this pile of lies? Or is honesty the only pathway worth pursuing? Just as the weight of her anguish became unbearable, Jake returned, ready to confront her, his voice a mix of suppressed emotion and raw vulnerability that cracked her heart open once more. Emily stood frozen as she met Jake's piercing gaze. His eyes, once warm and inviting, now flashed with a tumult of anger and hurt. The uncertainty she had felt moments before crystallized into a sharp, debilitating clarity. She had woven her disguise carefully, each thread formed from moments of connection, laughter and vulnerability, yet it had all unraveled in an instant. "Emily," he said, his voice low but steady, "why did you lie? You didn't trust me enough to tell me who you really are?" The accusation cut deep, slashing through her defenses. How could she explain that her deception stemmed from a genuine desire to escape the life that suffocated her? Her privilege felt like a heavy cloak weighing down her spirit, and she had thought that pretending to be someone else would allow her to be free. But now, in this crucial moment, the very freedom she had longed for seemed out of reach. I was trying to figure out who I am without all of this. She gestured vaguely to the world that felt like it was closing in on her. I thought if I could just live like everyone else, maybe I wouldn't feel so lost. His frown deepened, and she saw the shift in his posture as he took a step back, the emotional distance between them palpable. But instead, you created another lie? How can I believe anything you say now? She felt a surge of panic rising within her, flooding her senses. All the laughter they'd shared, the intimate moments that had opened her heart, were now tainted. The truth felt like an anchor, weighing her down, and she needed to find a way to lighten this burden. She took a breath, steadying herself as she fought back the tears threatening to spill. "Jake, please, I need you to understand. I didn't know how to reach out to you. I was terrified that if you knew who I was, you wouldn't see me, Emily, but just the legacy of wealth." Her voice cracked slightly, betraying the intensity of her emotions. "You don't understand," he replied, his voice sharp. "The wealth doesn't just change you, it changes everything about how people see you. You can't just step into our world and play make-believe. There are consequences." She nodded slowly, feeling the weight of his words. Yet buried beneath her shame and guilt was a flicker of determination. She refused to let this moment define her, or the love that could potentially blossom if given another chance. The instinct to fight for what she believed started to flicker to life. "I don't want to be someone I'm not. I want to know what it's like to be real, to feel alive. But I can't do that alone. I need your help, Jake. I need you to guide me through this, to give me a chance to prove that I can be honest and worthy of being loved." Jake's expression softened for just a heartbeat, but then a resolute mask returned. "You have to understand something, Emily. Trust isn't given freely. It's earned through honesty and vulnerability. You have a long way to go before you can stand alongside me as an equal." Her heart pounded at his words, a challenge that echoed in her mind. She needed to find her true self, the self that existed outside of the expectations set by her family. Perhaps this was a defining moment, an opportunity to not only reconcile with Jake, but to discover the depths of her own character. "Tell me what I need to do," she urged, "and I will prove to you that I can earn your trust. I want to understand your world, truly understand it." Jake studied her for a long silence, and in that moment, Emily could feel the fragile threads of their connection hanging in the balance. The vulnerability she had feared was now the only way forward, a bridge to the potential future she dared to imagine. But would he take the leap with her, or would his heart remain closed off, further isolating her in her quest for authenticity? The ticking clock of their remaining seconds buzzed louder in her ears as she waited for his response, uncertain if she was ready for what lay ahead. "Let's see if you're really up for it," Jake finally said, turning back toward his horse. "Meet me at the ranch tomorrow morning. We'll start there." As he rode away, Emily felt a shift within her, a determination that eclipsed her fear. She was about to embark on a journey of discovery, and the stakes couldn't be higher. But her insatiable need to uncover the truth about herself, and perhaps about Jake, propelled her forward into the dawn of a new day. What awaited her at the ranch would either crush her fragile hopes or ignite a fierce resolve that she never knew she possessed. Emily hardly slept that night, thoughts racing through her mind like untamed horses charged with uncertainty. Every fiber of her being was alight with apprehension and anticipation. The reality that awaited her at the ranch felt both like a burden and an opportunity. She had envisioned a life beyond her gilded cage, and now, standing on the precipice of that dream, every possibility loomed larger than ever. The morning sun peeked through her window, casting a warm glow that flickered against the walls of her room. It felt inviting yet intimidating, a mirror of her own tumultuous emotions. As she dressed, she opted for simple jeans and a fitted shirt, discarding the polished attire that mirrored her previous life. She needed to strip away the layers that masked her true self, a necessity she felt deep in her bones. With each step toward the ranch, her pulse quickened, mixing excitement with a lingering thread of doubt. What if Jake was right? What if the carefully constructed identity she had hoped to dismantle clung to her in ways she couldn't yet see? But deep down, a voice pushed her forward, reminding her of her determination to confront those fears head-on. She wanted to be real, even if it meant facing the disapproval of those she had once deemed all-important. When she arrived at the ranch, the scent of hay and the sounds of animals welcomed her, grounding her in this new world. The open expanse felt vast compared to the confined spaces of her past, as if the land stretched out not just before her, but within her. She spotted Jake near the stables, his silhouette framed against the rise of the hills. He appeared focused, meticulous, as he tended to the horses, an embodiment of resilience and authenticity. "Hey!" she called, her voice steady despite the tremor of her nerves. He turned, his face unreadable as he met her gaze. "You made it. Ready to learn?" That question bore weight, filled with unspoken implications. "Yes, I'm ready," she replied, her voice firmer than she felt. Jake gestured to a shimmering brown mare. "This is Honey. You'll start by grooming her. It's important to build a trusting relationship before you ride." As she approached, something profound happened. The simple act of brushing Honey's coat felt grounding. It connected her to the beauty of responsibility, to the idea of nurturing something beyond herself. With every stroke of the brush, she felt layers of shame peel away, revealing a sense of ownership she had never experienced. "Breathe," Jake instructed as he watched her. "Feel how she responds to you. Horses can sense emotions, and they don't respond to deceit." Gazing into Honey's gentle eyes, Emily felt something new blooming within her, a quiet strength anchoring her. The world around her faded into a hushed hum as she began to understand the subtle dynamics at play. She was no longer an actress in her own life. She was a participant, fully engaged. Hours passed, and Emily devoted herself to learning the routines of ranch life. She felt the sun beating down on her shoulders, a reminder of hard work and perseverance. Each accomplishment, from tacking up a saddle to learning to lead a horse, reinforced her resolve. But the weight of Jake's earlier doubts still loomed over her. They were mingled with his every glance, his every instruction. As they concluded their day, sweat mingling with dirt, he turned to her, assessing. "You did well today, but this is just the beginning. Tomorrow I'll teach you how to ride. But remember, it's more than just learning to keep your balance. It's about understanding the horse and yourself." The challenge in his eyes ignited a spark, a fierce curiosity propelling her onward. Could she integrate this newfound knowledge and trust into her reconstruction of self? She felt an insatiable appetite for discovery, both of her limitations and her potential. "You're not just uncovering the truths about the world here, Emily," Jake said as they started to leave for the day. "You're revealing the truths about yourself. Are you ready for what you might find?" His words hung in the air, heavy with both promise and uncertainty. The echo of his challenge rattled in her mind, weaving itself into the fabric of her heart. With each question, every lesson, she edged closer to a revelation she feared and longed for. As she headed home, exhilaration coursed through her veins. She was no longer merely a seeker, but a pioneer of her journey into authenticity. Yet deep down, she sensed that embarking on this path could lead her to confront a truth she hadn't anticipated. What would she uncover about herself, and would it ultimately resonate with Jake's own journey? This time she knew the stakes were higher than ever. The morning sun broke over the ranch, illuminating the horizon in a palette of orange and gold, awakening the world before her. Emily's heart raced as she prepared for her second day, the thrill mingling with a tinge of anxiety. Today was not merely about riding, it was about embracing a pivotal moment in her transformation. Each minute felt like a countdown to a revelation, one that might unveil not only her capabilities, but also her vulnerabilities. She approached Jake, who was feeding a handful of oats to another horse, his brow furrowed in concentration. That intensity pulled her focus and stirred a mix of admiration and trepidation inside her. Today, she resolved not to shy away from her fears, especially not in front of him. "Good morning," she said, catching his eye and standing taller than she felt. "Ready for the next step?" Jake asked, his tone measured but expectant. "Absolutely," she replied, the response fueled by a surge of determination. "Climbing into the saddle opens a whole new world. It's about trust, between you and the horse, but also you and yourself," he said, his voice low, lingering on the significance of those words. "First, you have to ground your energy. Horses can pick up on that like a radar. With each instruction, Emily felt a current of challenge crackling in the air. They approached Honey, who was grazing peacefully. As Jake guided her through the process, Emily clenched the reins tightly, feeling a battle raging within. She was facing not just the horse, but the tempest of her insecurities. The weight of perfectionism from her past loomed like a shadow, threatening to stifle her newfound confidence. "Relax your grip," Jake instructed. "Trust that she won't throw you off. If you're tense, that tension transfers to the horse." Exhaling shakily, Emily forced herself to soften her hold, feeling the reins slip through her fingers. It was terrifying and liberating all at once. For a fleeting moment she understood. This small action mirrored her broader journey. The tighter she held onto her past identity, the harder it became to forge a new path. With gentle encouragement from Jake, she mounted Honey, her heart thundering in her chest. The ground seemed to shift beneath her as she settled into the saddle, overwhelming uncertainty dashing through her mind. She tilted her head back, taking in the vast landscape surrounding them, the blues and greens of nature sprawling like a canvas awaiting her brush. Jake demonstrated the first movements with ease. Breathe into it. Allow her to feel your intentions. Have the courage to communicate honestly. Emily's body tensed as the horse shifted beneath her, but as they began to move forward, she focused on the rhythm, feeling Honey's movements in tune with her breath. A whisper of doubt still nagged at her, but she fought to suppress it, drawing strength instead from the wind whipping through her hair, a statement of freedom. "Feel the connection? She's responding to you," Jake remarked, his eyes scrutinizing her stance. "Don't just ride her, be a part of the journey." The ground beneath began to blur as she loosened herself to the experience. Each bounce brought excitement tinged with fear. Emily found herself yelling in exhilaration. The thrill sent shivers down her spine. Standing tall in the saddle, she suddenly realized she was conquering her fears and doubts one stride at a time. She wasn't merely a passenger on this horse. She was actively participating in her own rebirth. But just as she tasted the victory of that moment, Jake's voice cut through the euphoric haze. "Remember, it's not just the horse you're learning about. There's more we need to discuss." His gaze was unwavering, a stark contrast to the landscape bursting into life around them. "What do you mean?" she asked, the joy of riding overshadowed by a rush of concern. Was there something he was holding back? "Today isn't just about riding. It's about understanding the parts of yourself that you've hidden away. Are you ready for that?" Her heart sank. The signs were there, an unearthing of difficult reflections looming like dark clouds over her newfound journey. This was the moment of reckoning she had both anticipated and dreaded. As they rode side by side, Emily knew she could not turn back now. She was not just learning to ride, she was about to continue exploring the depths of her own identity, and part of her feared what she might discover. After today, would she return with a clearer vision of who she truly was, or would she unearth a truth that shattered her resolve? The stakes had risen higher than she imagined, and with every gallop, the urgency to confront her inner demons intensified, leaving her breathless with anticipation of what lay ahead. As the sun climbed higher, Emily felt the warmth on her skin, starkly contrasting the chill of apprehension spiraling within her. The galloping rhythm of Honey echoed the pounding of her heart. She absorbed the beauty around her, but nothing distracted from the reality that Jake was right. Today demanded true vulnerability. "Let's stop here," Jake suggested, pulling his own horse to a halt. His dark eyes focused on her. "It's time to talk." A tightness coiled in her stomach as she dismounted and stood beside him, Honey nosing at her arm for a gentle pat. Emily swallowed, gathering her thoughts like loose papers in a windstorm. "What do you want to discuss?" Jake leaned against the fence surrounding a paddock, gesturing for her to join him. "Take a breath. The goal is to confront, truly confront, the part of yourself that you've been hesitant to face." Fear quaked inside her. She took a moment to examine her surroundings, using the soft whinnies of other horses to ground herself. "What kind of parts?" "The doubts, the fears, the pieces you've locked away because they make you feel vulnerable," he replied. "What would happen if you took a step back and looked at them head on?" Painful memories flickered at the edges of her mind, the missed opportunities, the voice that often berated her efforts. "I don't know if I can, Jake. What if I discover something that breaks me? Or what if you find strength?" His voice pulled her from her spiraling thoughts. Riding is as much about understanding your horse as it is about understanding yourself. You're learning to trust, and that begins with you. The sunlight bathed the ranch in a soft glow, but the gravity of his words felt like a storm building inside her. I often feel unworthy, like I don't belong here. I've spent years hiding behind external validation, and now it feels like I'm just one misstep away from losing everything. Letting go of that need for validation can feel like the scariest leap of all, he said, maintaining eye contact. But if you hold on to those feelings of unworthiness, they'll always weigh you down. A part of her resisted, aching to cling to the familiar pain, but another part yearned for liberation. How do I start? She managed, her voice barely above a whisper. Let's ride again. This time, I want you to focus on what you feel, not just what you do. As you're riding, what fears arise. Acknowledge them without judgment. Let them surface. Emily bit her lip, heart racing at the thought of exposing those fragile thoughts, but aware that growth required discomfort. Okay, she agreed finally, pushing away rising doubts. I'm willing to try. Their horses moved forward, and as they cantered along the winding trails, Emily concentrated not just on the path ahead, but on her inner dialogue. Each rhythmic beat of hooves stirred whispers of insecurity, echoing memories of inadequacy. Yet this time, she listened, not with resistance but with curiosity. Jake's steady presence next to her helped. What do you feel? He called, urging her to articulate the uncertain emotions bubbling below her surface. I'm afraid of failing, she shouted over the sound of galloping hooves, the wind attempting to whisk away her words. What if I'm not enough? Jake nodded, encouraging her to continue as they slowed to a walk. And what if you are? The question clanged like a rebounding bell in her chest, sparking a flicker of hope amidst the chaos. The realization began to dawn on her that perhaps it wasn't about proving worth through accomplishments, but about exploring the layers of her identity that she had avoided for so long. As they wound back to the paddock, Jake offered her a sly smile, one that hinted at something deeper than mere encouragement. This is just the beginning, Emily, he said as they dismounted. You have so much more to uncover. The duality of exhilaration and fear brushed against her chest like the smooth mane of honey. Each stride felt significant, yet the question of how far she was willing to venture into her psyche loomed heavy. Will I find the parts of myself that I've ignored? She asked, her voice a blend of excitement and trepidation. Jake's gaze was thoughtful, perhaps recognizing the weight of her journey. Sometimes the truth is hidden in plain sight. You may discover that the pieces you fear the most might just be what makes you strong. Emily took a deep breath, capturing this moment of potential transformation. As the sun began its descent, she felt the pull of uncharted territory ahead, each step becoming a courageous foray into the unknown. What awaited her wasn't merely the exploration of her identity, it was the unveiling of truths that could reshape her entirely. That realization ignited a resolve within her, leaving her buzzing with anticipation for what she might discover both within herself and in her relationship with Jake. But with each passing moment, she also felt the clock ticking down to revelations that could either fortify her spirit or push her to the edge. Would she be able to accept the truths revealed, or would she find herself retreating to the shadows once more? As Emily stood by Honey, heat from the descending sun wove through her thoughts, mingling anticipation with anxiety. She was acutely aware that this was a pivotal moment. Dodging her own vulnerabilities had been a lifelong shield. But Jake's challenge had lodged itself firmly in her mind. The air felt thick, heavy with the potential for transformation. Let's not waste time then, she murmured, her voice imbued with an unusual steadiness. A cognitive shift had taken place, each word now a brick building a bridge to her new self. Vulnerability had to be met, not dodged. Jake watched, an encouraging light in his eyes. What do you want to face first? Her pulse quickened. The feeling of inadequacy. The admission felt like stepping into icy water, but Emily realized it was a departure point for something far greater. Jake's nod held an understanding that made her chest tighten. Tackling that head-on asked you to explore its roots. When do you remember first feeling unworthy? She hesitated, images of her childhood flashing through her mind. As a child, I always felt overshadowed, a quiet little girl in a big family. My achievements were always met with indifference. Nothing ever seemed enough. the recollection festered. Those experiences shape us. They can become part of our identity if we let them, Jake replied. What did you do to cope back then? It was clear to her now. Emily had learned to seek validation through perfection, always striving, always comparing her success to others. She'd become a master of managing appearances while battling a growing sense of disconnection from her true self. Performance, always performance, she said, a strange clarity sparking within her. I thought if I excelled, I would finally earn love. But here, on this ranch, it feels different. Why is that? Jake prompted, his voice gentle but insistent. She turned and looked at Honey, then back at him. Because I want to be here for me, not for anyone else. I'm learning that it's okay to not be perfect. Jake's expression was unreadable, yet she saw something shift, a glimmer of respect. Armed with this new perspective, Emily felt emboldened. I'm tired of wearing masks. I want to be seen for who I truly am. Jake's face clicked into a serious expression. To embark on that journey, you'll have to confront not just how you feel, but also what's holding you back. Are you ready to shed the need for external validation? Emily took a deep breath, the air burning in her lungs as though summoning hidden courage. Yes, it's time to stop pretending. The two mounted their horses again. As they trotted out towards the wooded trail, anticipation clung to the air. The rustling leaves began to represent not only the secrets of nature, but also those of her own being. Emily felt the old familiar fears bubbling beneath the surface. Her past mistakes, relationships gone awry, but now they seemed to transform into lessons, not anchors. Let's pick up the pace, Jake said suddenly, kicking his horse into a gallop. With fear and exhilaration colliding, Emily followed suit. The world blurred around her, becoming a deep tapestry of greens and browns, a vibrant canvas on which she painted her newfound resolve. As the wind whipped through her hair, she understood. This was about breaking down the barriers that had confounded her growth. As they slowed to catch their breath, Jake looked at her intently, catching her in a moment of reflection. How do you feel now? Stronger, she said, the word tasting foreign and sweet on her tongue. I am ready to face my past without succumbing to it. Encouraged by her own change, a flicker of an idea took shape in her mind. If she truly embraced her journey, what could it mean for her future and for her burgeoning relationship with Jake? Would she dare to go deeper, not only into her identity but also into their intricate dynamic? With the sunlight softening around them, Emily knew she had taken only the first few steps toward uncovering the vast landscape of her true self, one fraught with challenges yet shimmering with promise. But nestled within her was another question that would push her in ways she had not yet anticipated. Could confronting not only her past but also her feelings for Jake open doors to parts of herself she didn't even know existed? Would she allow her heart to speak? And if so, what truths would rise to the surface? The resolution began to expand, pulling her toward uncharted horizons, igniting a longing she couldn't ignore. Each heartbeat carried her further into the realization that understanding someone else might very well be the key to understanding herself. As they continued trotting, Emily found a fluid rhythm developing with Honey beneath her. The tension in her shoulders began to dissipate with each stride, replaced by a burgeoning sense of purpose. The forest around them branched out, each tree standing tall as if encouraging her to embrace the strength she so long neglected. Jake's laughter echoed ahead, a vibrant contrast to her introspection, and it caught her off guard. It was the sound of someone unburdened, and Emily yearned to share in that lightness. Yet the acknowledgement of her emotional weight pulled at her. "Why do you laugh so freely?" she called out, the question sharp against the soft rustle of leaves. He turned, curiosity etched in his smile. "Because I see potential everywhere, even in the challenges. What about you? Do you see it?" Her heart fluttered at the sincerity of his words. "I want to, but it's harder than it seems." "That's where courage comes in," he stated gently. "Facing what we bury can reveal the hidden beauty within us. You have to believe that your past doesn't define you. What does define you is how you respond to it." His words played back in her mind, urging her to confront the echoes of her past. Yet the notion of unraveling her tightly woven identity filled her with trepidation. The collapse of her carefully constructed facade loomed before her. Settling in a shaded clearing, Jake dismounted and stretched. He gestured for Emily to join him. "Let's take a breather," Open up a little more, Emily. She dismounted slowly, feeling the weight of the moment pressing down on her. The heart-pounding exhilaration from the ride still danced through her veins, but now it mingled with a dawning vulnerability. I need to understand why I associate my worth with performance, she began hesitantly, tracing shapes in the dirt with the toe of her boot. It's tied to my upbringing, but facing it demands more than just acknowledgement. Jake watched her intently, a silent witness to her inner struggle. What else do you feel? A wave of emotion threatened to rise. It's like I'm afraid that if I don't achieve, I won't be loved, and that realization is terrifying. Fear is just a part of the journey, but wouldn't you agree it's better to be vulnerable than to constantly pretend? She wanted to shout yes, but the voice within whispered of self-doubt. She remembered her family's indifference, the feeling of being small and unworthy. But then she recalled Honey's calming presence, how being around the horse grounded her, making the emptiness of her past seem less daunting. Maybe that's where it starts, Emily said, her voice gaining strength. I have to nurture what I feel rather than mask it. That might lead me to the love I've sought, the connection I crave. Jake nodded, a semblance of pride shimmering in his expression. Exactly, and love starts with self-acceptance. Until you recognize your worth, those around you can never see it either. That thought pierced straight to her heart. With it came a surge of determination. Instead of allowing the fear of rejection to paralyze her, she realized she could channel this newfound clarity as a step forward, both in her personal journey and in her growing relationship with Jake. But then, as her thoughts swirled with this realization, a shadow crossed her path. Would confronting Jake about her feelings add weight to her burdens? Or would it lighten them? What if expressing her truth caused him to see her differently? She felt both excitement and a tremor of fear. Just as she prepared to voice her burgeoning feelings, a rustle in the underbrush broke her concentration. Both she and Jake turned to see a deer darting away, a beautiful creature reclaiming its path, unfettered by the past. What if I could be like that? She whispered, the thought igniting her inner fire. Then you must commit to the choice of authenticity, he urged softly. Let go of needing to be perfect to be loved. The stillness settled around them like a warm embrace. In that moment, clarity pierced through her uncertainty. Emily realized she was on the cusp of transformation, yet the next step required her to speak her truth. As their eyes met, she felt a potent blend of fear and excitement swirling inside her. But just before she could express the depth of what she felt, the sun began to dip below the treetops, dimming the light. Shadows stretched along the ground, hinting that secrets were not meant to remain hidden forever. What would happen if she stepped into her truth? Would Jake embrace her authenticity, or would her vulnerability drive a wedge between them? A brewing tempest of emotions tumbled within her as she prepared to unravel the next layer of her heart. The twilight wrapped the forest in a delicate embrace, yet Emily felt time suspended in the tension between her desire to open up and the fear that tightened around her heart like a noose. Her thoughts swirled, and the crisp, earthy scent of the woods blended seamlessly with the fragrance of the fleeting day. She was standing on the edge of something transformative, yet she remained still, hesitating as if waiting for some cosmic cue to propel her forward. "Are you okay?" Jake's voice cut through the silence, nudging her out of her reverie. His brow was furrowed, worry lining his features. The concern in his gaze sent a fresh wave of self-consciousness crashing over her. "Yeah, I don't know how to say this," she admitted, feeling small under his scrutiny. Each moment stretched, the space between them stretching thinner. The rush she felt from the ride dissipated, replaced by an intimate vulnerability that felt unearned and heavy. "Just speak from your heart," he urged, his voice gentle yet insistent. "You're safe here." Safety, she mused. The very notion felt foreign yet comforting, like a flickering candle in darkness. The quiet of the forest, once overwhelming, began to feel like an audience quietly urging her to trust in her own voice. Taking a deep breath, Emily searched for the simplest words to express the tumult inside her. "I've always thought that I needed to achieve, to perform, to be seen, to be worthy of love." The words were tentative, thin like gossamer threads. They trembled as they left her lips. Jake listened intently, nodding slightly as if encouraging her to go deeper. The stillness allowed her thoughts to unravel even further. When I was growing up, I felt invisible unless I brought home accolades and praise. My worth became entwined with what I did, not who I was. "Did you ever get to just be?" he asked, genuine curiosity illuminating his features. "No, I always felt like I had to prove myself, like love was something I had to earn." Tears pricked the corners of her eyes, blurring the space that felt so safe moments ago. "And I fear that if I'm just me, I'll be unlovable." Jake's expression softened. "You are more than your accomplishments. Worth isn't earned, it's inherent, and you have to let it shine, even if it's messy." With each revelation, the weight on her shoulders lightened. Maybe the shame she carried and the relentless pursuit of flawlessness was an illusion constructed by her own mind. Perhaps it was time to dismantle that facade she held so tightly, not just for herself but for her relationship with Jake. "Can I trust you with this?" Emily's voice shook with uncertainty. "With who I really am." The fear of rejection loomed large as she sought the reassurance she craved. "Absolutely," Jake replied without hesitation, a glimmer of admiration sparkling in his eyes. "I want to know you, the authentic you." His response was woven with compassion, peeling back another layer of her self-imposed barriers. As the words sank in, Emily felt a surge of hope. Maybe acceptance wasn't as elusive as she thought. The fear she harbored seemed shrunken in comparison to the warmth radiating from Jake's presence. However, another thought crept in, a specter that loomed over her newfound courage. She remembered her childhood, the moments that shaped her while leaving scars. It wasn't enough to share just the good. She had to unveil the darkness, too. "I also worry that if I expose the worst parts of me, he'll pull away." A sickening twist of anxiety coiled in her gut, threatening the steady resolve she was starting to cultivate. Before she could voice that doubt, a sudden rustling snapped her back from the depths of introspection. Instinctively, she and Jake turned toward the sound, hearts racing in unison. The forest felt alive, pulsing with energy, as the chilling realization breached her mind. Was she ready for the raw truth of herself, about her failures and fears? Was it even possible to embrace everything she was, and still remain vulnerable with someone else? As the shadows lengthened with the setting sun, Emily now faced a choice between the comfort of silence and the risk of authenticity. Would she break the chains of her turmoil? Would she confront the entirety of her being in front of Jake? No facade, just raw truth? Her heart hammered against her ribcage, the urgency to claim her narrative swelling within her. It was a reckoning she long had avoided, but perhaps now was the moment. Could she go through with it? The forest seemed to hold its breath as Emily prepared to voice her deepest fears, walking into the uncertainty of love that waited on the other side of vulnerability. Emily took a step forward, compelled by a force she hadn't known was building within her. The evening air was thick with carrying weight. It amplified the sounds around her, the whispering leaves and distant branches creaking beneath the weight of secrets. She glanced at Jake, who stood patiently, waiting for her truth the way late autumn waits for winter's breath. "How can I share the parts of me that I've buried deep?" she questioned silently, feeling the instinctual pull back to her old ways. Each moment she hesitated felt like a betrayal of her newfound resolve. "Just be honest," Jake's voice coaxed, still steady, his eyes unwavering. "I'm here for all of you." "Even the dark parts?" Emily's voice was barely above a whisper, trembling on the precipice of an abyss. "Especially the dark parts." His response was firm, filled with an unwavering kindness that both startled and comforted her. The gravity of his words hung in the air like the last lingering rays of sunlight. In this moment, Emily felt torn between her instinct to shield herself from exposure and the familiarity of being alone. The fear of letting another witness her unfiltered self was a battle she had fought all her life. "I grew up different, you know?" With a shaky breath, she chose to begin. "My family struggled to make ends meet. There was never enough. I learned early on that love was conditional. It came with strings attached." As she spoke, each sentence lifted a weight from her chest, even if it replaced it with vulnerability that threatened to crack open the deepest parts of her. "There were nights I went to bed hungry while my parents fought over bills. I told myself that I had to be perfect. I thought if I excelled, I would ensure we never felt that kind of helplessness again." The words poured forth like water from a cracked dam, overwhelming yet liberating. Yet in trying to earn my parents' love, I lost myself somewhere along the way. All the awards, all the recognition, they were just empty echoes reminding me of my worth, or lack thereof. Jake's expression didn't waver. He registered her story, metabolizing her pain into something tangible between them. Each moment Emily shared felt like she was offering him a piece of herself, raw and jagged. Part of her feared he would recoil. But instead of the love I thought I craved, I've built a fortress around my heart, she continued, her voice stronger now. I can't let anyone in. She took a small pause, searching for the right way to frame what had been her unspoken truth. When I'm with you, I want to break that down, but the fear, it's suffocating. In the space that briefly followed, she felt liberated yet terrified. Here she was, wielding pieces of her past like weapons, victories that turned into insecurities. Emily exhaled deeply, relinquishing the pressure that had assailed her for so long. Emily, Jake began, and his voice was low and sincere. I appreciate your honesty more than you know. I get it, I really do. His words were a lifeline, encouraging her but also igniting fears of inadequacy anew. They flooded her thoughts. Could he truly understand the depth of her struggles? Could anyone? And yet, I want to know all of you, whatever that looks like, even the messy bits. They don't scare me, he added, determination underscoring his gentle tone. As a tense silence enveloped them, Emily felt a reckoning bubbling to the surface. The very truth she had feared uncovered now felt like it could be the doorway to freedom, a raw awakening to her potential for real connection. And then it struck her. Amidst the unveiling of her past was a realization of her present. Perhaps Jake's acceptance, a chance to thrive outside the confines of self-imposed expectations, could indeed mean redefining her limits, not as a liability, but as a rich tapestry woven with authenticity. Maybe, she began cautiously, yet daringly, this is where I start to let go of the armor. She hesitated, her courage fighting against her fears, yet the embers of resolve continued to glow warm in her chest. Can I trust you enough to show you the parts of me that are still healing? Jake took a step closer, his proximity solid and reassuring. I'm right here. Emily felt the weight of her past begin to unfurl, revealing the promise of a future unchained from the echoes of her beginnings. Just as she was about to delve deeper into that unknown realm, the rustling in the forest returned, and a shiver of unease prickled along her spine. She turned to find the source, breathlessly aware that their newfound bond might soon face challenges unseen. Would her willingness to be vulnerable hold strong against the realities lurking in the shadows? An undeniable sense of urgency knotted in her stomach. The moment had come to confront not only herself, but also whatever else awaited beyond the veil of authenticity she was just beginning to embrace. What lay ahead was uncharted territory, and as the dark clouds gathered, Emily knew the time had come for deeper revelations about herself and about the fears that had silently governed her choices for too long. Would she emerge resilient, or would she crumble under the weight of exposure? The curtain lifted on a new chapter as dawn broke over the Cedar Creek Ranch. The golden light spilled across the fields, washing away the shadows of doubt that had lingered around Emily Carter. The weight she had carried was real, yet in her heart, a profound acceptance bloomed, a testament to the journey she was ready to embark on. This moment was not merely a continuation, it represented a metamorphosis. As she stood outside, the scent of dew-soaked grass filled her lungs, invigorating her spirit. Today would be the day she would prove to herself that she was worthy of love, not earned through achievements, but inherent within her very being. She had spent so long hiding behind the walls of her family's wealth and expectations. Now, the very thing she had feared, the unveiling of her true self, was on the horizon. Are you ready? Jake's voice called out from across the paddock, jolting her from her reverie. There was an assurance in his gaze, an understanding that stirred a sense of confidence within her. This was her opportunity to confront her past, to recognize its shadows but not let them dictate her future. I am, she replied, her voice clearer and steadier than it had been in what felt like ages. With each step toward him, she felt a deeper anchoring, gathering the fragments of herself she had hidden for too long. Today we ride, but not just for the thrill. You ride for yourself, to face fears, to embrace this journey, Jake said, handing her the reins of Honey. As she mounted the horse, an exhilarating wave washed over her. In the collective silence of the ranch, her anticipation mirrored the pounding of her heart. She was poised to confront what had held her back, to move beyond the narrative she had crafted out of insecurity. They rode side by side into the vast expanse of the ranch, the world opening before them. The trail wound like a serpentine ribbon through fields abundant with life. With each gallop, Emily felt the burdens of her childhood gently falling away. Nature was a guide, whispering encouragement, challenging her to delve into the depths of herself and uncover truths veiled in silence and shame. Remember, just breathe and listen to your body, Jake called, his steady rhythm helping to ground her. It was more than a lesson in riding, it was a reminder that she had the agency to reshape her worth. Discomfort began to flicker at the edges, like an old friend attempting to reclaim its hold. What if I falter? What if I'm still not enough? She found herself thinking even as she pressed onward. But just as quickly she recognized those thoughts for what they were, echoes of a past that no longer defined her. Say it, Jake prompted as they reined to a stop at the edge of the forest. What holds you back from embracing who you are? With determination rising within her, she took a deep breath. Fear. Fear of not living up to expectations and fear of being hurt. But I want to let that go. That's where the strength lies, he encouraged, his gaze unwavering. You're beginning to shed what no longer serves you. Let it be the catalyst for becoming who you were meant to be. As they departed the tranquility of the forest, a vibrant thunderstorm of realization clashed within her. She had been conditioned to equate love with deliverables, a misconception that had led her into the rigid confines of perfectionism. Just as she managed the reins of Honey, she began to grasp that true freedom lay in unearthing her authentic self. With unanticipated bravery, Emily guided Honey forward, feeling a surge of confidence. As they rode, she began to release her fears aloud, affirming her worthiness of love and acceptance. I am enough. I don't need accolades. I don't need to perform. I simply want to be me. Jake watched her transformation, delight reflected in his eyes. You're on the right path. Embrace that voice. It's powerful. It's real. In that shared moment of mutual validation, she felt something incredible stir within her, an unshakable foundation built on honesty and trust. It was clear now. Her journey was not singular. The connection she had felt with Jake in moments of vulnerability had deepened through their shared aspirations for growth. As they ventured onward, Emily could see the landscape stretching before them, a metaphor for untapped potential. And just as they rounded a bend, her heart began to race with the promise of what lay ahead. Let's push our limits today, she said suddenly, a new audacity threading through her. Let's gallop. Let's see how far we can go. Jake's eyes lit up, his lips curving into a smile. Now you're speaking my language. Let's unleash this spirit together. With a fierce determination, she kicked her heels into Honey's sides, urging her forward. The world became a blur of green and gold, each thunderous beat of hooves resonating with newfound freedom. Emily realized she wasn't just riding a horse, she was reclaiming the narrative of her life, an emblem of power, autonomy, and worth. As they rode, the fears that once held her captive evaporated into the ether, replaced by the exhilarating sensation of unfiltered authenticity. She was no longer drowning in the currents of her past. She was commanding her ship forward, charting new waters. Through the wind, through the wild laughter, and through the pulse of the earth beneath her, Emily felt an undeniable truth arise, the absolute essence of her being. With each stride, she had accomplished not just a ride alongside Jake, but an emotional unearthing for herself. And as they slowed, she turned to Jake with a fiery glimmer in her eye. I want to pursue something real between us, prepared to be honest and open. I want you to see all of me, the good and the vulnerable. Jake grinned without hesitation. I wouldn't want it any other way. In that chase of self-discovery, there blossomed an unmistakable bond, one built on resilience, authenticity, and the courage to confront what lay beneath the surface. She had conquered herself, proving that vulnerability carried the potential to ignite love and connection. The road to their future would be paved with courage and genuine exploration, standing strong in the truth Emily had finally embraced. She could now face whatever months would unfold. She was born anew. As they trotted side by side back toward the ranch, a surge of satisfaction coursed through her. They were not merely chasing the horizon. In their journey, they had reclaimed their narrative. The transformation was real, palpable, and entirely exhilarating. As they prepared to dismount, she took a moment to breathe deeply, feeling the ground of Cedar Creek beneath her. For Emily Carter, the ride had only just begun. What followed held the promise of an extraordinary life, full of love, realization, and the strength of vulnerability. And within her blossomed an undeniable truth: she was finally home. Your journey, like Emily's, awaits. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Every true fan of personal overcoming stories understands the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Don't wait even one more second.